to a brand new episode of Coming Distractions brought to you by the Nerdpocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Jack.
What's up?
All right, guys, we're back. We're going to talk about It Chapter 2. No spoilers, but Jack did see the movie. So, Jack, you are the Stephen King expert. You are the horror guy in the network. So you saw It Chapter 2. I did. Pretty much too much of a chicken shit to see this right away.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you at all.
Give us the general premise for folks who didn't see the first one.
Sure.
And then the premise for this as it's a continuation.
So the general premise of the movie in its entirety is that there is a small town being menaced by a spirit of some nature. You know, not a ghost, but maybe sort of a demon. They never really go that in depth with it until the culmination of the second one. But there's a malevolent force that's killing children, and this group of kids comes together and manages to stop it in the 80s, and then has to come back 27 years later in this new movie to stop it again. Okay. Hopefully for the final time.
Right. Okay.
And it looks like a clown. If you don't know anything about this, looks like a clown.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on the second one? Well, before we get into the thoughts of the second one in general, how well does it connect to the first one? Does it feel, because this is directed also by Andy Muschietti, who did the first movie 2 years ago. Does it connect with this? Because obviously this is 27 years later. How does it work? Does it feel in the same world and stuff like that? Because I think that's important.
100%. Yeah, I wish I had rewatched the first one, which I did not do, before I went to see the second one, because it picks up right at the end of the first one. So
okay, good.
They're still using this. There's a lot of scenes with the child actors from the first one in this new one.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
It very much ties in. It feels like the same film.
Okay.
Almost. So,
okay. So your thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, it's a good movie and it's worth watching. That's my 5-second elevator pitch on it. With that said, it's 3 hours long. That's the biggest problem with the movie. It's 3 hours long.
It's 169 minutes, which is nuts.
100%. So if you look at it overall with both movies, it's a 5-hour movie,
right.
Which it's a huge book. Again, it's like trying to adapt any of his major works, like The Stand or, I can't. They're all 1,000 words,
right.
Or 1,000 pages. Who knows? So,
reason number one why I've never read a Stephen King book, because I would never finish it.
And why they're hard to adapt, because they're so large.
Right.
So it's a very large novel. It's a big movie. Does it need to be that long? No. So that's my very first thought.
Okay.
The third act is almost unnecessary. I mean, it's the last hour of the movie is spent in the third act, and they could eliminate almost all of it.
Okay.
And just get to the ending.
Okay.
While I'm saying that, that's really my only complaint about the whole movie is it feels overly long. James McAvoy is great. Jessica Chastain is great. The heart of the movie is Bill Hader. This is Bill Hader's movie. If they gave Oscars for horror movies, he should win a Golden Globe for this at minimum. Okay. He's very funny. He's the heart and soul of the whole film. Worth seeing for him alone. He's great. Steals every scene he's in.
It's cool because he's on what? He's on Derry as well. Like he's doing,
which I've never seen, but I really want to see now.
I've seen a little bit of it, and he does. I mean, it's comedic to an extent, but it's also like a pretty decent drama, right? Like he does a really good job of kind of riding that line. So it's kind of cool to see him do that again.
Yeah, no, 100%. And don't get me wrong. I say that he's funny because he is, but those are the moments that bring you out of the tension, because this movie is very scary. Unlike the first one, which I thought was kind of rote as far as the scares went.
Sure. I would disagree because I'm a chicken, but go ahead.
Fair. I would call myself a medium chicken. I'm like a 4 out of a 10 on the chicken scale. Like I can get scared. Don't get me wrong. And there are scenes in this movie that scared me.
Right.
A lot. Don't get me wrong. The whole second act.
I'm never seeing this.
The whole second act, if you know anything about the book, the whole second act is the characters coming back to the town that they left as children and finding their reason for being there.
Do they show up as adults in the second act? Is the whole first act all kids?
So I can say that without spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a spoiler.
So the first movie was about the kids defeating it. The first act of the second one is how the adults are brought back to the town by Isaiah Mustafa's character. Who plays the older kid whose name I forget, but you're looking at your computer so you can tell me. He's unrecognizable in that role, by the way.
Mike Allen.
Does a great job. He's the only kid that stayed in town. All the other ones left, so he's got to bring them back. That's the first act. The second act is them finding sort of their reason for being able to defeat Pennywise,
right?
Without getting too much into detail. And then the third act is them defeating Pennywise. So the first act has some good scares, but the second act, the whole second hour is 10. It's every 10 minutes there's something scary, and it's legit scary. I wouldn't think horror movies at this point could really get me with the jump scares anymore, because what is there left to see visually that's scary?
Surprise.
This movie finds two images that are extraordinarily scary. And I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of freaked out by that, because where are we at in this point that we can still find something that's visually scary?
Right.
We've seen the Cthulhu things. We've seen so many outlandish kind of images. There's some really scary images in this one. The old lady, especially from the trailer, that whole scene is the scariest part of the whole movie.
Really,
hands down. And it's really great all through that. The story is great. James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain do a really good job. They have kind of a love interest thing going. Again, Bill Hader is the heart of the movie. The third act could be 20 minutes instead of an hour. It's unfortunate.
Okay.
It's story-wise, it's fine, and I always like to see the characters sort of their changes brought and their stories brought to the forefront instead of just the scares. But it seems like those last few scenes are kind of put there to show off the effects.
Yeah.
One of those very last scenes is the most blood I think ever put on film.
Jesus.
And it's sort of unnecessary.
Again, you are giving me all of the reasons to never see this.
It's sort of unnecessary.
But that's what this movie is supposed to be, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, for me to listen to this as a person who's not a horror fan, but I did see the first one just because everyone was like, it actually is a very good movie. And it was. Actually, I thought it was a very good movie. For me, again, a massive chicken, I was fucking terrified.
Yeah. Still, though. You watched it.
But I still watched it. To hear that, yes, this is even scarier than that one. To me, I think that bodes well for horror fans. So that's good.
100%. The biggest reason to watch this is for the story, for the acting. Right. It's a great movie besides just being a scary movie.
Okay.
So I want to say that.
Yeah.
The parts of the last act drag. With that said, is it worth going to for the story? Is it worth going to for the scares? Is it worth going to for Bill Hader alone? Yes to all of that. So 4 out of 5 stars. All right,
there you go. 4 out of 5 stars. That's pretty good, especially for a horror movie, dude. Because I think probably the first this 2017 one is probably the best horror movie I've seen as a modern horror movie. Like,
I can see that
because I've seen, and I don't see a lot of horror movies. But the ones I have seen have been pretty fucking bad. So I would say,
I can see that too.
I would absolutely say that was the best one I've seen in a while.
They often forget the plot, and they often forget the story and the character development, of which there is plenty in this 5-hour movie that encapsulates 2 movies. Right. Plenty of character development, plenty of also things for the Stephen King fans. I wanted to mention that there's one major Easter egg from the book that's about 3/4 of the way through, and the very last scene has a major Easter egg for Stephen King film fans. I can say all that without spoilers. So it's very good. I highly recommend it for anyone who's not just a horror fan. I will say that the middle hour and a half is the palpitations, man. It's just constant. It's constant. You're on the edge. And so by the time the third hour comes around, you're like, I've seen it now.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. 4 out of 5 stars for It Chapter 2. Sure. And we will see you guys next time. Bye. You're watching the Nerdpocalypse YouTube channel. Make sure you click that button to subscribe and check out our weekly podcast where we talk about movie, TV, news, tech, and weird stories from around the internet.